If you have ever wondered what it's actually like and how to grow a business substantially without using social media and really dialing in to email, this is your episode. I'm joined by Sam Vander Wielen, attorney turned entrepreneur turned author and founder of an $8 million business built largely through email marketing, evergreen systems, and sustainable growth strategies. Now, she has been a guest on the podcast before, and today I invited her back to open the doors behind the scenes of how she's grown her newsletter to more than 60,000 subscribers. Yes, that is a lot of people, while creating a business that protects her mornings, her evenings, and her peace. So in this conversation, we're really pulling back the curtain on what she calls the real assets of your business. And so we're talking about how she's been able to grow her email list, some of the tactics she uses to get almost 1,000 email subscribers a month consistently, what her newsletter process is, how she's integrating Substack and some of the newer trends into her writing process, what her writing process is, and basically any question I could ask to really understand how this is working for her. So if you're ready to create more predictable growth without adding more to your plate, you're going to love this. If you love emails, if you love sustainable organic strategies, I can't wait for you to listen. Hello, Sam. Welcome back to the Crush the Rush podcast. I am just honored to have you back and that you're excited to come back and talk to us. So thank you for being here.
Always. Thanks, Holly. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah. So if you're new around here, Sam has been on our podcast before and she was on episode 508. And so you want to go back and take a listen to that one. But I want to talk a little bit about your background before we get into the meat of today's conversation, which is around organic growth. But you started out as a corporate attorney and then moved into health coaching and then moved into what you're doing now. And so the question I want to ask is, how did you know that it was okay? Or I guess, how did you give yourself permission that it was okay to sort of let go of what you thought maybe you would always be doing?
That's a really good question. Because I definitely I hope people know, anyone who's listening who might be in a 9-to-5, some corporate job, that you had your eyes set on, you really thought this was your path. And now you might even be sitting, listening to this in your office being like, oh no, this is not my path. Like, what do I do? That was very much me. Like, I really, really, really thought that was the thing I was supposed to do and wanted to do, only to find out it was very much not. And I feel like for me, it had just gotten so bad being a lawyer and like what my life looked like. And I was so like sad and down about going to work every day and the kind of work I was doing, the people I was around, that I just knew I couldn't go on like it. I think it just got to a point where I would have rather been judged by people. I would have rather been like, oh my gosh, I took out all these student loans and did all of this work for this, but I still wanted to leave. Like, that's when you know when like the scale gets tipped so far in the other direction.
Yeah, it's such good advice. And I think I get asked the question a lot too. I think we have similar corporate backgrounds and it's like, I just couldn't do the same thing I was doing for like 10 years. And so I think for me, that's always like a gut check. I want to talk about your book really quickly. I see it sitting behind you. And the last time we chatted, it was just coming out and it's called When I Start My Business, I'll Be Happy. And it's really an amazing book. Give us a little insight into what life has been like since your book has come out.
Oh, writing a book has changed my life, let alone my business. You know, it's funny for me because I had a multi-7-figure business. I've had one every single year since 2019 in a row. And so my business was always doing really well behind the scenes, but I didn't necessarily know many people. I didn't get on big podcasts. I couldn't kind of break into the room, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting because I really wanted a big 5 book deal. I know you and I talked about this and like I wanted to go the traditional route the first time around and just have that like full experience, kind of like having a big wedding, you know, and that's what I wanted to do. And so I've done that. And when the book came out, all of a sudden those doors that were previously closed opened. I started hearing from a lot more people who never knew me before. Like, I think books are such a unique product, so to speak, for what we do, because people are used to finding us on Instagram or they like hear our podcast or whatever. But the fact that like someone would read my book and then they would tell their friend like, hey, you should go read her book. So I started hearing from all these random people who were finding me through word of mouth, which is just really different. Like I get digital word of mouth, but I think it's a different level of like intimacy almost, that someone's like read your book and then they're coming and reaching out to you. So that's been really cool too, to like, I think, deepen the relationship with the community.
Yeah. I mean, I've followed you for a long time and I feel like the last maybe 18 months, like the doors have definitely opened. You can see it. I'm curious what your favorite moment has been.
Speaking on stage at Kit's Craft and Commerce conference last year. And that's, I think, for so many reasons. For one, it's the best conference. It's the best in-person conference I've ever been to. And I go every year. But it's also the first and definitely like the first big one that I had ever gone to. Back in like 2018, 2019, I went by myself. I didn't know anyone. I sat in the back of the room and was very like so envious, like in a good way. I had a fire in my belly of like the people who were speaking on stage.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of like, I kind of hate them. And also I feel like I could be up there, but you know, you like realize you're like, oh, I want to do that. Like I hate that they're there and I'm not there. And I think that was the first time I ever realized that I actually wanted to be like that. Like I wanted to grow a business that could be capable of that. So last year, walking out onto that stage that has gotten so much bigger and so much fancier and had all these people. And I was just like, I can't believe, like, I just remember being that girl in the back of the room yesterday. So that was a really cool experience for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I will say, I've said this to a lot of people, like, you're one of my favorite people to interview because I feel like you have a ginormous business, but you're still so real. Like, you're the one that answers messages. And like, I feel like we have a real conversation. It's not like a team, or you just feel very organic. And that's sort of what we wanted to dive into today. Is you have almost 70,000 people on your newsletter, and the majority of it is through organic systems, relationships, and I think not through a lot of social media hustle. I know you're on social media, but you've sort of like gone in and out. And so let's talk about give us a little context of what your organic system looks like right now.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, the bulk of my people do come from so much organic content. And so I have a podcast called On Your Terms I've had for 5 years. And so I've post weekly, new episode every Monday. So I think that has established a good community, just like yours, right? Where people get used to listening to you. I also think, just as like a side note, that if anyone's curious about starting a podcast, that it is a really unique way to create a connection with people that then does lead to people being on the email list and vice versa. Like people who are on my email list hear about the podcast. And, so I have a nice little like flywheel system going there. So I have the podcast. Then I have my newsletter, Sam's Sidebar, which is a weekly newsletter that we're talking about. But that itself, I have used as a piece of content to drive in organic traffic. So I've used that like, instead of the way that some people might use a freebie or something else, like I'm actually advertising when I create content, like, hey, get my emails. They're really good. It comes out every week. This is what I talk about. So people sign up for my emails themselves. And then I ask people to share and to like send to a friend. So that has created like a nice organic word of mouth network as well. And you're right, when it comes to social, it's really interesting. I've basically created a system where I am very like, if you went to my Instagram, it is extremely active, but it's not me doing it. So I've come up with like a really nice system where you can create content. It doesn't mean that you have to be the one that goes and posts it. So, I've created a nice system where I'll record the video, send it off, they post it, and they manage any comments or anything that comes in. But every single thing that I'm creating there is with a purpose. And typically that purpose is to drive traffic to the email list. So I'm getting a ton of signups from my organic content, even on social, to my email list as well.
Yeah, I want to dig into your newsletter a little more. I always use it as an example when I'm like, hey, you need to send a newsletter and here's a really good one, because you've had it for a long time. And I think it's like evolved over the years. And I know there's like a Substack piece and a regular piece. Like what does that look like?
Yeah, good question. So when I first started my newsletter back in so I've sent a weekly newsletter for 10 years straight. I've never missed a week. And so it just goes so crazy. Kit tells me I've sent like some crazy number of millions of emails at this point. So I'm like, I'm sorry for all the emails. But Yeah. So when I started, they were kind of like letter based. Like I would say it just kind of looked like a normal email. Then at some point I transitioned into doing more of this like magazine style where I had like different sections and I did a Q&A and all that. I didn't really love that. So I'm kind of back to just like, it's a story. And then I have like links and resources and things like that. So it's evolved as newsletters have evolved as well. But that really is the backbone of my entire business. And it's where, I recommend to people that you use this as like the place that people can go to get information from you exclusively, right? So instead of you putting everything out on social, use your time on social, if you're on it much at all, to say like, hey, on Tuesday, I'm going to be talking about, like, this is actually what I did last week. This is a real example. So I went to Kids Craft and Commerce Conference and I said on social, I'm only telling my email list the behind the scenes of what happened at Craft and Commerce. I got to go to a private mastermind with James Clear. I got to do all this like cool stuff. I'm only telling them, go sign up for my newsletter. And so it's a great way to make that feel worth it and like an exclusive part of your community.
Yeah, I love that. When you think about having 70,000 people on your newsletter, what do you think the steps were to get the biggest growth? You just gave us like a little snippet of share behind the scenes or keep certain content specific for your newsletter. Does anything else stand out?
Yeah, so definitely like consistency for one. I always tell people that this feels very similar to investment. Like if you were investing $5 a month, you might not think that that's very much, but you kind of look back and with compounding interest and all these things, you're like, oh, actually that stacked up when I thought I was doing nothing. So there is a bit of that you just have to like trust me, trust yourself and commit to the consistency, even when you don't think that it's growing much. So there's that part. I would say the second thing is that the times I've seen like the biggest spikes in growth, because I just have a lot of like consistent, I get a few thousand subscribers a month and I'll just see consistent growth. But when I get spikes, it's usually times that I've jumped on something timely. So I'm not a big trends person. Like that's part of what I hate about social media and like what exhausts me about social and that I feel so done with. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, have fun with your trends. I will be over here like doing my thing. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is timeliness. So for example, a couple of months ago, I heard that Taylor Swift had filed a trademark for her voice, which is not a thing, right? Like that's not something we currently trademark. And so I went on social and was like, I'm going to be writing an email about this, like, because this is a thing, it's pushing the envelope. We're concerned about AI cloning and all these things. And that brought in like a flood of people. So anytime you can work in like a trending topic per se, or a newsworthy thing, or a timely thing, like a back to school thing or a holiday thing, anytime you can jump on that, I think that's when you can drive like bigger numbers in a short little burst.
Yeah. How are you using Substack with your kit newsletter?
Yeah. So the purpose of me starting my Substack, which is also just under my name, it's Sam Vander Wielen, if anybody's on Substack, but the purpose of starting that was to give me a space to write more of the stuff that I hope to write in the future. So like after I came out with my book, When I Start My Business, I'll Be Happy, which is all about how to grow an online business. A lot of the people I heard from really love the personal narrative and like the personal thread throughout. And that's a lot more of what I want to write in the future. So for me, it was like a place to play and kind of go and talk separately. So I've written a lot of personal essays there about grief. As you know, I've experienced a lot of grief in the last few years. I've talked about more of like the honesty of behind the scenes of what it's really like to be a founder. So the things that maybe my kit people didn't want to hear, although it's kind of funny, to be honest, Holly, because like what I heard consistently when I did that was people were like, no, we want to hear that. Like, why aren't you writing that to us too? So I'm in the process of figuring that out. Everybody's on me about why I don't just drag over my email list as well, like copy it over to Substack. And I'm like, I don't know. They didn't sign up for that. Like I'm gonna like keep it so clean and I don't really advertise it. So part of it was like to see how much organic traffic I could build up on Substack. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I'm always so interested. I mean, I think newsletters are amazing and I love the personal content.
Yeah.
And so I think I was curious like how you were keeping it separate, how it was like blended together. So I love that you were honest of like, it's just an experiment. We're just trying to figure it out. When you think about your growth, and maybe if somebody's listening and are like, oh my gosh, like 1,000 new email subscribers a month sounds amazing. Like, is there anything else that stands out for you as it relates to really connecting with your audience that has helped you sort of get to where you are?
Yeah. So I would say that I mean, in terms of a couple of strategies, so reaching out to other people to collaborate in our space who have a similar size audience, because sometimes I have people reach out to me and they're like, I'm just starting my email list. Can you like mention this thing? But it's usually helpful when we have something a little bit more like symbiotic to share and to promote each other where it makes sense. Like you and I, you know, obviously doing that makes a lot of sense. And so that can be really helpful because if you think about it, like getting onto somebody else's newsletter, like they're sending this newsletter, they already have a newsletter and they're sending it to people who like to read newsletters. So, you know, typically speaking, those people would also like to read yours. So I think that that kind of stuff really helps. Going on other people's podcasts, obviously, any kind of podcast guesting, creating your own podcast, setting your own stage, you know, creating your own room always helps when people are starting out and you can't get onto other people's, create your own, do your own thing. And if you are on social media or you're posting on social, I say make it count. Like every time you're there, I'm like, I'm not here to mess around. I'm here to grow my list. I don't want to just be on there like talking about whatever. If I'm going to create a piece of content, it's going to lead to my product or to my list. And part of that is because I really believe in my newsletter and I put a lot of time and energy and love into my newsletter. And I think that whether we're talking about creating a product or a newsletter or a podcast, if you're creating something that's really good, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable promoting it because you know it's really good. Like I know my newsletter is going to provide a lot of value. So I don't have any problem with going on and doing that. And then using something like ManyChat so that I don't even have to be there. You don't even technically need a team member. We just kind of monitor or make sure it's firing correctly. Yeah. But just so that, you know, it's automated software so that if people I can say like comment sidebar and I'll add you to my list. It actually adds people to my email list directly in the DMs. They don't even have to leave. They can just say, hey, what's your name? Holly. Oh, great. Holly, what's your email? You put your email and then it adds you to my list. So it's a super automated way for us to be able to do this 24/7. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I know you're really into sort of life first, which is something we talk about on this podcast a lot. And if you're listening, you're like, wow, that's a lot of content. That's, you know, millions of emails you've sent over the last couple of years. You're also creating social content. You're doing all these things. Like, how are you scheduling that in your day to day?
Well, I have a rule that if I'm going to do something, I'm not just doing one thing. Like if I'm going to sit down and do a podcast, I'm not doing one because it's just, as you know, too much. Yeah. Like you get all made up and you get the mic out and you do all the things.
Wash your hair.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, this is a special occasion. We are going to capitalize on this. So that really helps. Typically, I can knock out 2 or 3 podcasts at a time. Depends if they're shorter. I'm going to do a little experiment for the summer where I read my Substack essays aloud to do like a summer series for the podcast. So those I'll be able to do many more because they're only like 7 minutes or something. So we're doing that. And so I kind of have like that batching process down. Same for social. Like, so basically what I do with social, I feel like I run like a media company sometimes, and I guess I kind of do, but basically what I do for social is I get like the bank of all the ideas, the different concepts. They're typically categorized as like, I'll do a set of voiceovers and a set of like video or face to camera that I have to do. And then I'm literally like scripting them out and have like a director's cut of like what the shot's going to look like, what I need in the shot. And so I'm just doing those all in one afternoon. And that's like a month's worth of content. So definitely batching. I like to write my newsletter in real time because just like this podcast interview, it's better. I think when it's like, you know, it's that week and you kind of know what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to lean into summer a little bit. You were talking about real time, and this is like one of the episodes because of schedules and things. Like we're recording it pretty close to when it's going to air. So I'm curious when you think about growth and scaling, and I think you're actually in the middle of like a big launch right now and you're still doing a podcast, which feels great. So like, what does your summer schedule look like in terms of being creative versus taking time off?
So I'm taking the whole summer off. I actually took the entire month of May off. Nobody knows. The business did multiple 6 figures without me around. So I really have everything set up ahead of time. The business runs pretty smooth, especially because I only do like kind of 2 big launches, live launches a year, as you know. And so outside of that, I have an Evergreen funnel that's working. And I recently revamped and like wrote the funnel emails myself and did the ads myself and the copy, and we did all of this and put it into motion, and it's like catapulted. So we're just kind of letting it be, and there's not a whole lot for me to do other than starting to batch content for the fall. So I'm taking off. I just write my weekly newsletter because I really do enjoy that. And that's kind of my schedule. I mean, I have become a really big fan for living first so that you actually have something to write about or talk about or whatever, and not doing things for Instagram, not doing things to capture it for content, not even doing it with the purpose of like, oh, I need to go to this museum so that I have something to write about for my newsletter. I just have really shifted into a mindset of living first. And then some of those things turn into ideas. And other times it's just kind of the steam that I needed to blow off, and get out.
Yeah. You mentioned you sort of brought it back to the newsletter, which I think is great, about how do you know what to talk about? So do you have like a bank of ideas? Is it just whatever comes to you? Like, is there a creative process that you have?
Yeah. So I keep a running list of ideas, a note on my phone, usually when I'm out and about and something happens. I also am a really big fan. I would encourage everyone to just try what I'm suggesting. But when you're out and about and you see something like kind of funny happen, you should just write it down, even if it has nothing to do with business. Like yesterday, for example, I took a tennis class, a cardio tennis class, and it was a cast of characters. Like I was thinking like, I wish I could write fiction because everybody in this class could be a character, right? And so I just like quickly jotted in my notes, and that might become something. Like in an email, that might become something. It might spark an idea. I've gotten in the habit of just writing down funny things I see at the grocery store, or like an example of a bad business thing I saw when I was at a bakery or whatever. And a lot of those things turn into stories. But if I could give any tip, what I would tell you is that like a lot of times I have that bank of stories or ideas of things I want to write about. I keep people's questions, same thing. I'll write down their questions as they come in. But my emails that have gone the best are usually the thing I'm like the most fired up about in that moment, the thing I'm the saddest about, angriest about, most excited about. It's whatever I kind of feel like the strongest emotion. And a lot of times I will go into writing an email and be like, okay, this email is going to be about X, Y, or Z. And then I just have to get this thing off my chest. And that's what I write about. And it goes crazy. So that's what I've found to be the most successful. I think it's whatever's like most honest and true to you, whether that's something you're pissed off about or super excited about.
Yeah. If someone's listening and they want to get more into writing, because I feel like writing for you is really what has like catapulted everything, whether it be the book or consistency with emails, what piece of advice would you give them?
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think it's honestly the most underrated skill in our industry that people just don't realize how everything comes back to writing, whether we're talking about writing your newsletter, writing copy for your website, captions for social media, writing a script to record a reel, like everything comes back to writing. So I also want to give the encouragement that like I was not a writer, would not have considered myself to be a writer when I started my business. I was a lawyer and I wrote like a robot, so like it was a lot of undoing, and I just did not consider myself to be like a creative person. So I just wanted to like put someone's mind at ease who's currently thinking like, oh, well, she's always a writer, I'm not a good writer. This had to come to me, and I still don't consider myself a good writer, but and I've written a book, but I would say because of that, it's practice, right? It really is like, it literally is finding your voice, because a lot of people will try to emulate me, or they will ask me like about my formula of the way I write emails, because my emails are very, very story driven. And I've figured that out because that's what's most natural to me. My brain works in terms of metaphors. I've always done that. I can see the bunny that's running in my backyard right now and think about how that flips to being like a business lesson of some sort. That's how my brain works. And so that makes the most sense for me to put down on the page. But I only know that because I tried writing like everybody else and it didn't feel right to me. It's kind of like putting on a pair of shoes that don't fit. Like you have to figure out what is the pair, right? What's your size, what's your shape that you really need. And so if yours is also storytelling, great, then you're also going to be like me and go around and collect a lot of stories. If yours is something different, that's great too. But you want to play with it and kind of see what feels fun, what makes sense for what you write about, and what speaks to your audience.
Yeah, I love this. Okay. How are you using AI when you're creating this?
I am not. I'm not using AI. I am not using AI at all. The only thing we're using AI for is on the back end. So I write everything, come up with the stories, do all of that kind of stuff. And then once I write my newsletter or record my podcast, then we take the transcript of those things, and then that can create like the show notes, for example. So the show notes are being written by that, but then edited, but it's literally based on my words. And so we trained the thing I don't even know. I know nothing about AI. I'm the worst. So, and I could care less, but I'm like, but we basically like said, don't take anything she hasn't said, like take what she said and just clean it up. So that's the only way I'm using it in the business. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. I think it just goes back to people love real stories and kind of what I shared. Like, I always love having conversations with you because I feel like they're so real. And I feel like we're just like sitting in your living room having a conversation. I want to ask a couple rapid fire questions. What's the most overrated piece of advice you see people sharing when it comes to growing their email lists?
Probably to use AI to create content.
Yeah, it's just not the same.
I think it's not going to connect with them, especially because like you can get 9 million, we're all getting 9 million emails. So why are they going to read an email from someone? I also have a little bit of an issue with the fact that like if people won't take the time to write content, like first of all, this is all based on the premise that you're supposed to create so much more content, which I think is a bad premise and that's bad advice. So I don't even agree with that. And so if you can't even take the time to create a couple of good pieces of content, then how do you plan to work with clients? I don't know.
Yeah. So good. What's the most used tool or system in your business right now that you couldn't live without?
Oh, good question. I would say Slack from the keeping in touch with I'm like, that's probably keeping in touch with my team. That's really helpful. And Kit, honestly, I just like so much of my business is run off of Kit because my email list is built on it. And then also all my funnels run through it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. What does enough look like for you right now?
Oh, enough is exactly where I'm at. I mean, I think this is talk about an underrated piece of advice. I just think that we don't think about what enough looks like for us often enough. And so for me, it's just like, there's nothing. I think you hit a point where you're like, if I made more money, it wouldn't change anything about the way I'm living. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm comfortable. I'm safe. I don't need a new car. I don't need any bigger house. I don't need any fancier stuff. And I'm fine. Like I'm happy. I'm good. And I think that's a really helpful place to be, or like a helpful thing to come back to, because in our industry, there can just be a lot of emphasis on more, doing more, bigger, better, faster. And like even to the AI thing, it's just like, well, why do I need to create more content? What is it about more content? I don't need more stuff. Like I'm okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. So good. You have so many amazing resources. I share your newsletter all the time. If people want to learn more about what you're doing, read your newsletter, your Substack, where can they find and connect with you?
Yeah, so definitely sign up for Sam's Sidebar. That's my weekly newsletter. Holly mentioned, we'll make sure you have the link. And then you can come listen to my podcast on your terms. I'm at Sam Vander Wielen on Substack and on Instagram as well. And if you need legal templates or legal protection for your business, obviously you can always visit my site at samvanderwielen.com.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much, Sam. We'll have to have you come back and you could give us all the insights next year of what's going on.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.